Hello, my name is Vatsal, and I am engineer at the Notebook team. So today I'm going to present you a project called SSOT-MCP, which stands for a single source of truth MCP. So let's start with the problem I'm trying to solve here. So picture this. If you have a new team member or you yourself is a new team member, or in my case, I just joined Notebook team last year. I came from OpenStack team in a while there. But anyhow, when you join a new team, your team kind of guide you through the project, code repository. You check out the code, you clone to your local dev environment, and you run it from there using clusters or Cloud Code or whatever tool you use to kind of help you with the coding assistance. But sooner or later, you start to realize that your component in your project is just one of the piece of the puzzle because they typically integrate deeply with other dependency using the Red Hat ecosystem, right? In my case, Notebook is just one component of the Red Hat AI. When you try to solve one particular problem or you want to propose another PR to your projects, you sometimes end up making another PR to the other dependency as well. And you start to realize that your project is not just one, your chain is not just one, but it's also you need to make other chain to the other dependencies in order to get your features going, to get your bug fixed, right? And that will require you to learn more about the other projects. Most likely will sit on the other repository, or maybe even different organization and so on. I mean, even different Git provider, could GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket. And then you started to like that, it's getting more complex and complex when you have to check out the code to your local this and then how cursor index the code or learn the code, maintain that. It's just not skill, right? And that's the problem that I am facing, and I believe you probably having the same issue. So what can we do to solve this problem? So that's why this project is really about. So the goal of this project is to gathering all the project code base into a searchable knowledge code base where you can search semantically, which means through a very meaningful phrases or questions where you can interact, get question answers, and also just a very typical search through a lexical keywords. So you can search without copying all the repository in your laptop. So basically, you index all those code into like a centralized storage code base where it run on MCP servers, and you can connect your clusters or your cloud code to an MCP server to learn about the code base. So the question is, right, why not to use existing product? Because there are already some solution out there, right? So I've been kind of evaluated some couple product out there. They claim it to be free, but they tend to have a very complex licensing issue. Only for enterprise, some are free trial, some have very weird license. I've been looking at the SourceGraph, SourceBot, and some other similar where they provide some free and open source, but also they have a commercial licensing. So basically, you don't really have a full control over this, if you want a free version of it. And so that is the problem, right? Why I don't want to use those existing product out there. And that's why I come up with this project where I would show you the open source and sell horse, when they're lock-in. So what is SSOT really give you? So first, you have a full control. You own the data, you own the model. It's all yours. No vendor lock-in. And number two, it's very simple. I provide a dashboard where you can import, add repository, you can rebuild, reindex, add, delete. It's just very simple UI. And it support GitHub and GitLab. Git here, Bitbucket, that's in my project. I haven't really get that far yet, but it should GitHub, GitLab, and of course on the local disk if you have a code already out there. And for the search, so I think one of the main features of this project is the semantic search, where I'm using Chroma database through embedding, read, chunk all those data and indexing in the vector database using Chroma database, where you can search in a meaningful way of asking question using semantic search. And of course, you can still just search through the indexing keyword using lexical search. And the idea is to have those MCP server on your network, run it. So you have many of your team members, many IDE that can connect to the MCP server and learn more about your code base, about your project, documentation, and so on. All the knowledge that you already have there is already centralized, so you don't have to clone that into your dev environment. So, like I mentioned, one of the main feature of this project is indexing because it's important to index your data, index your code in a way you can ask questions in the natural languages. And here are the process that I use to create all those semantic search. It starts with a clone. You clone the Git repository and you chunk it. So basically, you just bundle all the text chunk and manifest and embed it into a vector database. In this case, I'm using Chroma. I have to use the GPUs in my server here in order to create all those embedding. Very heavy processing, especially when you have a lot of repository to go through. I tested like hundred repository, and I mean it does work. The GPU will speed up the embedding and indexing as well. And from embedding, you go to indexing, and then you check all the cross dependencies, the code, and link the dependency between the projects. And I'm using Prefect, one of the tools I'm used just to track the progress of all the jobs that are running on the background because they have a really beautiful dashboard UI that all provide on WebSocket real time all the status of all the indexing pipeline here. So search, yes, semantic search. It's using Chroma and sentence transformer. So basically, it let you ask the question in very natural, formal languages. Like how does authentication work and where is the retry logic? You ask that kind of question naturally, and semantic will get you the right code, the right piece of content, the right document for you. And of course, you can search through a lexical keyword by just get the right keyword, the right symbol, the right string, and it should get you a result. So when you got this project up and running, here are the list of all the tools that cursors or your cloud code will look up and will use this tool to get all the meaningful information about your code base. You can search, of course, semantics or lexical search, and the metadata and the indexing file dependency and so on. And deployment, like I mentioned early, that you need to have a GPU for embedding. And this is like one of the heavy duty part that GPU is required in order to index all those code base through vector database to create a very meaningful searchable context. And this is all the stack that I'm using in order to provide all those interface and UI and tracking and dashboard and so on. So yeah, I mean, if you compare the difference in your traditional way of working, you clone it to your laptop. In the SSOT-MCP server, you clone just one into your servers, and then you kind of centralize it from there. That's a major difference. And just think about number of people you have in your team to clone this project, and number of machines that need to do indexings and searching and create a contact and so on. In the very traditional way of cloning, you require n number of machine, n number of people, to do all this work, right? But if you run that in an SSOT MCP server, this is done once, or maybe on your regular basis, where you need to maintain, update, and deploy, and so on. But you only have one of a centralized pipeline that store all those information. So all you have to do is just connect your IDEs or your agent into the servers, and you get all the answer from there. So when do you see SSOT is the right fit for your team, right? If your team using cursors or any IDE, you can query multi-repository there. And if you mix up GitLab, GitHub, all others or Salesforce, maybe you should think about it to centralize that in one place. Ideally, you don't need the full source code into your local disk, right? You probably want to clone a couple projects and just let SSOT take care of all the other dependencies, all other component projects, and you don't have to deal with that. You don't have to maintain all those in your dev environment. And here's just a note, a quick start if you want to try it out. Here's the link to the repository. Check it out, and don't forget the GitHub token, GitLab token, and then Hugging Face token as well. Just put it in, and this is the magic command. Just apartment compose up and build, and it should does the work and should run it from here. And the dashboard should run on this port, and then it should provide you instruction to connect to your MCP server. So with that, I will start a demo, and we'll show you the dashboard, the UI, show you the progress, how I index it, and how I import it. How do I import the project from GitHub, GitLab, and put those things together, and then do a little test from the cursors, ask questions different between before and after SSOT MCP server. So let me start show you a project. I have a notebook project here, check out in my local dev environment into my machine. And this is before my SSOT MCP server. If you look at the MCP setting here, there's nothing, just the GitHub setting here, very typical. So let's ask questions before this SSOT MCP server and see if it can really write. So when is the conformer date set, for semantic build to true? So what I expect to see is that I don't think that I'm gonna get the right information from me here because I don't enable or I don't connect to my MCP server yet because the conformer date was setting in a different repository. So when we search this over here, I believe it's not going to find the information I'm looking for, or probably it just hallucinated and tried to get me the wrong information. So let's see. The conformer date to set up semantic flag to true is around the end of June. And let's see if it can really get me the right date for this. All right, so I got answer here. So let's scroll up a little bit. So see, it said there's no conformer effective date, and this is not right. The conformer date was setting in another GitLab repository. So basically, it just the cursor, the agent just keep guessing and don't really get me the right information here. So the date is not there, and it even mentioned about the June 7, which is not right either. It might be just read from the old information in the document somewhere in the code there, but that's not correct. Yes, so that is example before integrated with my SSOT-MCP server. So let's try the same question with the integrated with SSOT-MCP server, and we should get the right date, per se, because the date was stored in I think in the GitLab on the conflict release data repository. So we'll see. So before we start asking the same question using SSOT MCP server, I just want to show you what it looked like on the dashboard here, where you can see a list of all repositories that I already imported. And you might see some failure here. I think the failure here is because the branch is not there. You cannot find the branch for some reason. But not all the repository was set up properly. So anyhow, a lot of them is already there, 100 of them. And I will go in detail later how you import it. But this is just like a brief overview of what it looked like first. And let's go to cursor here. So let's start a new MCP server that will connect to my SSOT server here. So I do have a copy ready here, and don't forget about the token, the code there. I already invalidated that. This is just for demo only. So you paste it there, and you should be able to see a list of all the tools on the SSOT server. And here you go. You got about 8 tools enabled through SSOT servers. So let's try asking the same questions again and see if it can get the right conformer date. And this is all the tool that it provides using lexical search, semantic search, and so on. So let's start a new, let's copy this question first and start a new, and then ask the agents to answer the same question here after we integrate with SSOT or MCP servers. So I have to explicitly mention using SSOT MCP server here, just kind of to guide cursor to look up that information from my SSOT project. But otherwise, you're going to look up from the internet, which is not really what I want. So now the progress is start. I'm going to take some time. But you kind of get an idea right now where it just runs semantic search. It runs lexical search as well using the SSOT MCP connections. And I should get the right conformer date correctly, which is by end of June. So it searched across all other repositories that were already indexed, and you should get all the right information. And by the way, that conformer date was set in the GitLab on the conflict release data repository. So now it takes a little bit of time and we'll wait. Let's see. So 1 moment later, we should get the result.
A few moments later.
All right, so 1 moment later, let's speed up the demo here. And you see it scans through a lot of repositories. Basically, it scans through a project that I set up in my SSOT MCP server. And it looking good, actually. Yes, so it looked like it got the right information now. This time it's June 30, 2026 that the conformer date need to be set. So it found from release conflict release data, and conform our data set semantic to true, and that's the date. So you see that is the right information after we integrate it with the SSOT-MCP server. So yeah, so that is the benefit of having all those code index. Let your agent search across many different repositories without cloning them or without storing them. You local this here, and you should be able to get all the information you needed. As long as it stay in the code or in the documentation. All right, so here what the SSOT MCP server look like, and I run it in my network, and of course you need to log in. And now just an empty dashboard, and I'm going to show you how you import organizations. So basically, import right here will you can add a single repository as well, and there's a little instructions show you how to connect you to your MCP servers. So let's start with import. So import basically I will copy paste. I don't have to type that. So I have a couple organization that I want to go to import. So this one is for Open Data Hub. It's a GitHub project. You will see a list of all repositories showing up here. So here you go, and you see the status for each of those. It started to queue up on the background, and I'm going to start the progress. And right now we have 165 repository under Open Data Hub alone, and all the step here. First, that's queuing, clone, and create a chunk, and create embedding, and of course indexing, check the cross dependencies, and finally it complete. So the one thing that I want to highlight is index, right? I mean, it use both lexical search and semantic search. And semantic search is one of the key main features of this project, where it will create all the chunk and store embedding in the vector database where you can search naturally using natural languages instead of search by the keyword. And here the status of a couple projects that's already done in progress. And there was some failure here. I think this is just a branch not there for some reason, because each project might have a different branch or don't even call one of those branch names that conflict properly. But anyhow, I really like that running icon. I spent a little time to animate that icon to make it look funny. So yeah, we got one of the organization. Let's import other organization here. So this is another downstream organizations for Royce, and let's import that to see. I think we're gonna import about at least some hundred something, yeah, 160 repository added into this project. And now what it does, it kind of just does the same things, and we end up with 331 repository, and I'm going to just go through all those steps where it will clone, index, and so on. And then you can just keep import others. Like in this case, now I import the conflicts because I've been working closely with the conflict as well. So now it importing, let's see how many, 139 repository from just from the conflict alone. So now it's importing still in progress, and let's add another one here. This is GitLab. This is the GitLab. Let's import that, and it auto detect that it's a GitLab, and click import. It should import a bunch of other repository. And imagine if you have to clone this into your local repository on your computers, on your dev environment on your laptop, it's gonna be a nightmare. Well, this one is only 49 repository from GitLab. In total, we have 519 repository just from 4 different organizations, because those are the organization repository code that I closely work with in order to build my own notebook here. You probably see 2 notebooks here. One is the upstream and one is downstream. And this page here, it just provides you a little status of what it looked like, how many repository was cloned, indexed, and so on. Yeah, so that is a demo for the SSOT MCP project. And I hope that this will help you, and this will provide you some ideas if it's something really worth it to think about it or to use it. Or if you found other similar idea or solutions that's already out there, free and open source, I would love to hear more as well. But in my case here, I decided to create this project because some other existing project was not really license friendly to me. So I want to make this project open source, MIT licensed, and hopefully get out there to communities, and we'll work together on this project sooner or later. Thank you. So I would like to open up for questions if you have any.